agenda, what we're going to do today. And start with our intro question. Hey, SDM 707. Want to say hi? You're muted if you're trying to speak. Okay, welcome to Softgov. If at any time you want to open your mic and introduce yourself, feel free. And hi, Tonga and Manu.
Hi.
So today we have quite a lot to cover. So I'll time the intro question a little bit so we can cover everything. So we have updates from the formation of the financial working group, and Gideon will share a little bit. Bear will also share some progress, and also start a little bit this discussion. I don't want to get too deep into it, but just get a sense, a temperature check on voter apathy, plus perhaps having too much of a high quorum on Snapshot. So remind everyone about the water vote and understand what should we lower Snapshot quorum, what are some practices we can bring to create more voter engagement. And then on the culture work streams that we started last week, just some updates on where is everyone at? Is there any progress on each one of the streams? And then just an announcement about the ecosystem health metrics that we'll have a meeting on Wednesday, on Friday, a hack session. So this is what's coming for Softgov today. And Edu suggested we have this question, that we bring this discussion to Softgov, that is, what do you need support with? How would you like to be supported? So he expressed he was feeling overwhelmed and having some repetitive tasks and would like help, and that it's hard to find help for certain things. And then just understanding how are people feeling, if there is if this is a shared sentiment, and if so, what do you need support with and how you would like to be supported. So I'll pass to you, Edu, to start.
Thank you. Yeah, so the question it's basically to a more personal level rather than having a general answer to it. The idea is like, if you, in my case, for example, what do I need support with? Probably outreach, outreaching people. That's the top thing. A few months ago, I would have said help with the member's journey, but he didn't step up into that role, so that got solved. But in general terms, it's like also how we would like to be supported. Like, how do you feel comfortable? Like, how do you offer support also to someone else without feeling that you are stepping in or anything? Any feedback you have regarding this, I think help is always appreciated. I just feel sometimes working groups feels like a little bit like an Iceland, so it's this cross working group dynamic. Starting by asking for help could be nice to implement them more often. Like the same way we have the empathy for intentions and distractions, is the same empathy we should also have, I feel, for request support or for offer support. So yeah, and I will pass it to Bonjour since you are muted.
Edu, I think you more explained what you wanted to bring with this than you actually answered the question. So maybe
yeah,
you
that's
could
true.
answer the question, and I'll put the timer to roll. And welcome, Noses Ilbuhu. Is that how I pronounce your nickname? Welcome. If you want to say hi for a second.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you too.
I'm just kind of like getting into learning about token engineering. I'm actually very excited for the program in October, November, and slowly I'm making spaces to listen to your agendas, to learn a little bit more about the program, and of course, everyone else and thank God that so far, the few meetings that I've been to, I've met so many wonderful and very disciplined, dedicated, smart people. Looking at the content, I'm not gonna lie, I feel overwhelmed because I'm a lawyer. I work with trademarks, but I'm very excited to see that most of the people interested in this are very serious and dedicated people. So hopefully I'm gonna learn more about the engineering side, but as well as other smart opinions of people in other fields. So nice to meet you. I'm actually Carlos. I don't know why I put that. That's my how do you call it, a pseudonym. I don't know how you say it in English, but it's a pleasure to meet everyone, and I'll stick around for a while.
Nice. Welcome, Carlos. Nice to have you here. So this is the Softgov call. We look mostly into soft governance, like everything that is mostly off-chain or ways for us to culturally create practices that help us organize ourselves and looking into culture in general. So welcome. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Mike. Nice to have everyone here. And so I'll pass to you, Edu, and I'll put a timer for a minute.
Sure. Thank you, Livy. So going back to the question of what they need support with, I think the help with the outreach, mainly because it is something that is constant and repetitive through time. We will keep doing it. It's unavoidable. And then the way I would like to be supported most likely will be when I ask. Mostly on the calls, I ask if anyone wants to, jump into an intention call, if anyone wants to do this, and usually for this more of a cultural social layer kind of intentions, there is not much engagement. So I feel it will be nice to be supported when someone asks for it or is willing to, seek for other people to volunteer themselves. Even if it is out of your comfort zone, we can work on it. I can help you, or we can see a way that even if you do not have fully the agenda for it, at least showing the interest to show support, I think it's quite valuable enough. And I will pass it on to Maumane.
Thanks. I would say that it would be nice to have people whenever they are maybe whenever they had a breakthrough or considerable progress or some development on the issues that they've done, they could just message me something. They don't even have to go into the issue itself and update it. It can just be an informal, hey, I did this, hooray for me, or something like that, and I'll make sure to give some context and update it into the issue itself so that we can all know what's going on. So it was something that came up also with Santiago, which is SDM 707, and Gaston, which is Tonga. They want to contribute, and they weren't sure which of the issues were updated, which weren't. Most of them were, and I showed them that the ones that are in sprint and in progress are the ones that we ought to look at. But anyway, that's just something, and I will pass it to Teresa.
Hi. Well, I don't think I have something where I don't feel supported at this point here at TC, because everyone has been so much help, and I'm just finding my path here at TC, and I've been truly supported by all of you. Plus, all the calls have been just great to open my mind and see how DAOs work. That has been a huge groundbreaking thing for me, to see non-hierarchical organizations and all of that, and you have to be more proactive because you don't have specific roles to fulfill. So I'm just grateful to be learning and helping out here at TC. And I'll pass it to Bear. Conrad. for
Hello. Yeah, I feel really good because yesterday we had a meeting with Mount Manu, and yeah, we went through the boards, and it was a bit surprising that there were issues that were created like 1 year ago. So that was why I was asking if they were updated, or maybe there is another things that are more urgent to do. But yeah, in terms of support, it was very good. So thank you, Manu. Santiago is a friend of mine. I don't know if he wants to talk or not, but we are going to be taking tasks, and we will be working. We live in the same city, so we can get together and work on stuff. He's interested. He's not so much yet into blockchain, but he's an engineer, and token engineer is like it shouldn't be too hard for him to get used to it. So yeah, who wants to be next?
Hey, welcome, Shardul. We're going around with this question of what do you need support with and how you would like to be supported. I see you just joined, so I'll pass to someone else and you can take it after.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm still new, just over a month, I think, like someone else said, and I've spent most of my time with my head into server-side stuff. You know, I'm working on the Praise server project, so I haven't attended many meetings, and I feel a little bit. Anyway, I'm not answering the question. I certainly feel supported, no doubt, and completely. You know, what's the word? Enthusiastic isn't quite right, but to be in this organization, whatever we call it, at this time in my life, and also at this time in Earth's history, is just incredibly inspiring to me. So, and as far as offering support, I mean, I'm a permaculture certified designer. So if anybody anywhere ever wants any help or advice on, planting and living the permaculture lifestyle, I'm more than happy to support in that regard. Thank you.
Do you want to go next, Shardul?
Yeah. So I'm a product manager. Like, I recently joined the TEC. I haven't been able to attend since last 2 weeks. I want to get started with contributing towards Softgov and learning more about how governments work, so I can also implement it in my project. So contribution as well as receiving learning to implement it in my project.
And I'll pass for you to Carlos. If you want to just share if you need support with anything now that you joined, do you feel like you're being supported? Is there something you need? Is there something you need support with?
Hello, since I'm getting into the materials, I guess my main problem is the technicalities. However, I've asked in the chat and I've been provided with resources. I know it's a long road, so maybe it's because I'm a little bit overwhelmed, I guess. So far, so good. Thank you.
Hi, this is Shardul again. I also want to add that I want to contribute towards the Softgov project. I am a product manager. If I can contribute in any capacity, I would love that.
Thank you. That's great to know. Auntie, do you want to go next?
Sure, thanks. I don't think I need any particular support with any task. So far, my contributions uh, have been fairly easy to manage. And yeah, just that I probably have to organize myself better or know how to or where to stop saying yes to things. But that's probably more on me than on the TC or anything else. Um, but yeah, so far everything's going good. Um, I'll pass it on to you, Gideon.
Thanks, Enti. For me right now, I think I just need some wisdom from folks who have been here in the TC for a longer period of time. Like I'm finding that there are lots of places to plug in, and where I am plugging in, and I feel like I need a little bit of support in trying to prioritize those, across working groups, based on just what's happening with the community right now. So yeah, I think that's the big thing for me right now. I will pass it to, I'm going to say Bunjue. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Bunju, close enough. Thank you. I just want to echo what Teresa and Bear said about having a really good support structure here at the TEC and always getting help when asking for it. So in that sense, I don't really need support because when I do, I just reach out to you guys and no one has said no so far. So that's a good thing. I anticipate needing some, I guess, help or feedback from the proposal that I plan on drafting for the Softgov topic that we discussed last week. So I'll probably reach out to some of you to read and review what I've drafted. But overall, it's been a great experience, just like what Teresa said and Bear. So no issues with support, and still fairly new here, so I'll still have a lot to learn. And with that, I will pass it to, let's see, I can't see anyone that hasn't gone on my screen. Livia,
Livia.
Livia,
Livia's
all
the
right,
last one.
Livia, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a hard question for me. I've been trying to get better at this, at just asking for help, and I've been getting a lot of support. I think there is a fear sometimes of like suggesting or opening space for people to do something and then staying in silence or in the emptiness or not receiving the engagement back, like, oh, let's do this thing, or like, we're discussing about this, it sounds exciting, and then people feel like they want to commit with things, but then other things happen and sometimes they don't commit so much. So I think I need to learn better how to deal with the situations, not feel frustrated, and also learn how to be a little bit better on like nudging people, on being like, hey, how are you doing about this? And so I think as much as I need help on being supported, I feel like I also need help on knowing how to support others. And this is a constant learning. But yeah, thank you everyone for sharing here. And I could probably have done better on this answer. I'll think a little bit more about this because it's probably a question I should have a better answer for. And so we can start with the financial working group topic. So just for integrating folks who are new to this conversation, we've been discussing what are some revenue streams we can bring to the TC, how to enhance the TC utility, and how do we make sure that we're being a regenerative economy and not that our funds are going to be depleted and we won't be able to fulfill our mission. So we've been having a lot of conversations on this topic, and recently Mertz and Bear and Gideon took a lot of ownership of this issue, and they have a lot to share on the progress here. So do you want to share a little bit, Bear, on what you've been putting up for this topic here, and also for the revenue streams spreadsheet that you created? Yeah, amazing. That's really great to see all of this organized. You're a much better spreadsheet wizard than I am. That's awesome to have these different tabs too and look more into each one of these ideas. Gideon, do you want to share maybe share your thoughts on the state of this, and then also what you wanted to bring from the conversations with Z?
Yeah, thanks. And Bear, that's awesome. It's so good to see that moving forward. So what I think my main thing that I'm focused on right now is the urgency of this question. I think that we're, when you look at our burn rate as a community, it's pretty high, and these are things that I think we're going to need some longer term solutions and then also some shorter term solutions, because if nothing changes, the burn rate may have us running out of funds before the end of the year, depending on how things roll out in terms of changes in our expenses and things like that. So this is an urgent thing. The thing that I had mentioned to Livy was that yesterday there's a group that is called the laser tag group, which is basically has a chunk of money for the TEC that we're using to kind of help build liquidity with other kind of like related organizations out there. So like One Hive, for example, and Giveth and some others. And so we were having some conversations about this water vote that's up on kind of like doing kind of group liquidity, kind of shared liquidity. I guess we're going to talk about that in a second. Over the course of this conversation, I was like, I think liquidity is important, but like right now, frankly, the thing that is most important is to start getting some revenue coming into the community. And so that started this conversation. And the person who jumped in and just had just massive amounts to say about it was Michael Zargam. So for people who are not familiar, for people who are new to the community, Michael Zargam is this kind of, I don't use the word genius that often, but he's kind of a genius when it comes to token economics. And he runs Block Science, but he was, I think, Livy, you can add more, but he was very involved in some of the founding of TEC, right? Is that right? So he had a bunch of ideas, and so I wanted to just try to kind of like summarize just briefly what he was saying last night. Not so much because like, hey, we should do these. It got me excited, so I wanted to share some of that excitement with you all here. And I think these are just kind of like ideas to explore. But here, let me see if I can do justice to what he was saying. So one thing that he's talking about is this idea, what he's calling inexhaustible treasuries, but basically this idea that the funds that we have in our common pool, he's like we should be thinking about how we kind of split those into investment strategies that are kind of organized by like some specific outcome that we seek to achieve, and then almost like manage those like an investment manager would, or like a portfolio manager would, as a way to kind of like achieve, invest in things in order to achieve certain goals. The second thing that's kind of related to that is that he looks at, if you look at the projects that are being funded through our conviction voting, we need to be a lot more clear about how to kind of separate those. So this is related to that first point, but there's this idea of operating expenditures versus capital expenditures. So operating expenditures would be, this kind of goes to what you were talking about, Bear, which is that there's the funds that go to the, funding the ongoing operations of a working group, for example. And then the capital expenditures would be things like projects where we're trying to invest in the capacity of that working group to get better at whatever it does. Or it might even be capital expenditures in projects that are outside of the TEC, or somehow kind of related, but they're not actually hatched within the TEC. And so understanding that as a way to kind of help us with budgeting so that we don't drain what he called drain the tank on our operating capacity. There was a lot of conversation about, he had a lot of thoughts, and I was sharing with him, but this idea of professional societies, that there's all these services that come from like the IEEE and other kind of professional societies where they have different services that are part of just being part of that community. So like knowledge commons management, publications, events, networking, job boards, those kinds of things. And there was some conversation about membership fees, and that there's some dangers of having membership fees in terms of keeping things open. And then the last category was what he described as open source software white labeling. So it's basically taking our tools and opening them up in kind of like a, the traditional open source way, but then supporting them through services. Much the way, it's like basically helping the other communities that want to use these tools with like how you actually support those tools. And that really resonated for me because that was something that I'd done in my last job, which was like providing tools to the environmental movement and then finding ways to then help build the capacity within organizations to actually use those tools. So, and I think there's a lot of interesting business models around that. So I just wanted to share that because I left that conversation thinking like, wow, okay, actually, there's some long-term things that we can do, but there may be some shorter-term things that we can do to actually start to get some income coming in. So I mostly just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That's really interesting. Maybe we can have a share of thoughts, if very brief, before we jump into the other topics, if anyone has comments about this.
Well, can I add one more thing, Livy? The other thing was that, Michael was very concerned about like, hey, let's not have this conversation. It just kind of happened on that thread and he just poured forth all this stuff. But, I think we were both like, hey, we need to take this out of this thread and then move it into basically a process like this. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to join this meeting tomorrow. And I said like, hey, can I share this as a way of trying to integrate what you're talking about? It's like, absolutely. So I think it would be great to involve him in this and like use him as counsel, but he's super busy. So I think we just need to find ways to kind of like loop him in over time when possible.
How would you see the next steps here?
I'm not sure. I think it would be like just getting a meeting together with Bear, Mertz, Manu, you, Libby, and whoever else is interested to kind of like maybe review some of what he was talking about, but then I don't know. I don't actually. I'm not sure. I don't think like off the top of the head, but I think a meeting would be good to kind of try to distill some of that stuff, but then figure out how that maybe integrates in with some of the stuff that's already been done, Bear, that you've done.
Hey, Gideon, I just want to say I agree with all your points. I think most, if not all of them. And so it's my understanding that the common pool funds are not currently being invested. Is that right? They're just sitting there?
No, they're open for investment. It's just some of the projects. It's just a question of whether they are able to get enough conviction to get approved. So some of them have been stuck and some of them have been moving through.
I see. Okay, well, I guess it's that way partly because this is still a very early project. But I know Gnosis, they have like the functional equivalent of a hedge fund manager managing their funds, and all their finances, it's all transparent. So I can actually send you a copy of their spreadsheet if you're interested, and you can get an idea of how they farm their funds. So they go through a bunch of DeFi protocols, and it's all there. And I believe we can tailor our investment strategy according to our risk tolerance. So obviously more risky, higher investments. But yeah, that's something definitely we should be looking into.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the funds of the common pool are not being invested in any way. Just the funds of the laser tag that are being up for like strategies of like any type of farming, or that's why this water proposal is important, because it's suggesting exactly that. So common pool funds are safe, and yeah, nothing is happening with them in that sense. And then there was an initial buy-in that the TEC bought, was the first one to buy TEC tokens. And then a big part of those tokens went to the laser tag, that is this multi-sig, trying to make the best decisions but proposing to the community decisions on how to invest those funds. And then another part of the initial buy went to the reward system.
Okay, very interesting. I'll talk to you privately about the multi-sig. I'm kind of interested in that aspect of it. How big is the common fund at the moment?
It's about 750,000 US dollars right now.
Okay.
And thanks for clarifying that, Livy. I didn't. I think this is an interesting question about investing. Like there's like investing in tokens, like a treasury type investing, and then there's like the investing that we're doing with our common pool into projects and things like that. So it's interesting. Like there's like a question of terminology too. Yeah.
Bear, do you have any other thoughts after what Gideon shared?
Oh, and also the separation between the operating funds and the capital funds. I really agree with that idea, because then we get more accurate KPIs of that working group's performance. Because then we can look at their capital funds and see, based off of that data, we can see whether they met the KPIs, if even they have KPIs, or if they were a success or a failure in their own eyes.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this topic in just to understand how much we already have on like kind of incubating this initiative in Softgov until it's ready to set its own ground, and it feels like it's ready. Like there's enough people and topics, and there's all these materials now that you organized, Bear. So I think maybe next action would be to plan a meeting and then work on the manifesto of the working group. And that's part of what you're talking about, like just creating milestones and a plan of work for how to approach all of these topics that are already here. Cool. So, yeah, I think, would you like to do that, to propose a time and maybe set up the first call? Yeah, cool. I can help you on that. So moving on to the next topic, that it's a little related. So there's this water vote on Snapshot that the first vote didn't pass because we didn't have enough quorum. And then we realized that maybe the quorum we're suggested for Snapshot is too high. That is of 10 people and 10% of the token holdings. So we didn't reach 10% of the token holdings in the last one. And we were discussing in the Steward's call yesterday, should we change this quorum? Is it too high? Are people starting to get some type of voter apathy? Or should we try a little bit more by creating some practices around voting and engagement on proposals? And then for this proposal in specific, I think it's quite a difficult topic. I don't think everybody in the community understands about the implications of trying this. And it took me a while to read the forum post and all the materials on it. And I think there's also that factor of like, oh, there's this education time. And I asked the question, for me, it's really not clear what is the benefits. I mean, I understand that it would provide liquidity, but I don't understand how much and if it's worth all the risk that we have, because it feels like there's so many risks that are presented and just one possible lose benefit that could be interesting. So I think there's also the challenge of like, okay, when a question pops up, what is the time? How can we make this process more fast, of like, there's a question, there's someone answering that question, there's a vote up, people know about that vote, all this structure behind a vote existing and a decision needing to be made, I think needs some attention now. So I'm just curious if anyone has thoughts.
Yeah, I think engagement on proposals, but also on the forum overall, is needed on the TC. I think I don't know the exact stats, but I don't think enough people see the posts and stuff going around, and so I really worry some of the decisions and votes aren't really being made like with enough information by the token holders. Because I don't know where's happening, but I don't personally see any or much conversation around most of the proposals. So it's like they were discussed on another way, or they weren't discussed at all, and that kind of worries me.
Just to briefly comment on that, yeah, that's one of the things we were going to call it the gardening sessions. The thing is that we couldn't coordinate properly with Griff. The idea is that we will have sessions to talk about gardens and any question people have, and try to build some momentum against the voter apathy based on sharing information about the proposals that will be up for a snapshot or gardens. So this is on the works. It's just that Griff is a great cut herder for people. He is a great person for dynamizing these calls, so we were expecting for him to do so. But if not, then we will have to figure out another way to do it. But yes, it's part of, should happen this week, should happen next week for sure. So we can work on that. And I will let you know anything when that happens.
This is probably more of a personal comment, but I would rather try to explore other options that doesn't necessarily include putting more calls on the people participating here. Like I don't think I can attend more meetings to be on the loop of what's happening, especially with proposals that are going to affect the whole community. So like ideally there's a way that we can get people into, explore the actual forum and both their opinions there, so I can go in free time and just read through and comment whatever I feel to comment.
I hear you. Can I just throw an idea briefly and quickly? What would you think about, for example, having a kind of TLDR put on Discord or something along those lines that sort of briefly summarize every proposal? Does that do you think that will be easier, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is not the information, because like you can go and see the recorded meetings or whatever, or anyone can write a small resume on the comments, but like people isn't getting to the forum anyways. That's the issue. Well, like I don't know. I'm not sure. I used to go to the forum like probably every day in the morning and just see what's up, but seems like not everyone does that. And I don't know if for the amount of talking holders, there's an equivalent amount of engagement on the meetings, and like maybe the working group meetings aren't as important to have engagement, because that's for the people that are particularly interested in contributing. But as far as decisions for the whole community, I don't. I mean, it's cool if you want to have a call, but I think we really need to explore more ways, more async ways to engage people into the TC decisions.
And
I hear you.
are you interested in proposing a solution for this? Maybe thinking about it, making a proposal, and bringing to next week's call?
Yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
cool.
if I could just chime in, I think this is the big question, right? Because you're dealing with several issues like growth of the community that will hopefully encourage more involvement. But then you have to have these proposals submitted that take time and that don't meet quorum to make those changes for more growth. So it's like a vicious circle. So my question is like, why can we have a Gnosis safe that's delineated just for these relatively, not big changes, minor changes in the TEC, but that go a long way and that don't require the consensus of the community. And then you can have, people that are trusted in the community be signers on that multi-sig safe. And then for like bigger changes, you have a separate safe that's tied to the DAO. And that should have the voice of the community heard, like for those big changes. And that way you don't sacrifice like security for speed, but you gain all this speed on things that don't require all this work. And then you go slower on the things that are like big for the community. That's what Oren, he's a dev for Gnosis Guild, and he did a presentation a few days ago on this. So because that was one of the questions that one of the questioners had is they're moving so slow. Sometimes we need to do things faster. And then he proposed this idea where you can have safes that are delineated for certain tasks. So that's maybe just an idea.
Yeah, I think if we just lower the quorum, it would have a similar effect. But I really dislike that idea because I think it solves an immediate problem and then it creates a much bigger one after, that is this social interactions and how fluent, how flowy the community can be, of like people entering certain roles, leaving certain roles. And I think it goes a lot in the question that Gideon has been working on of membership and what does it mean to be a member of the community. And I think having the ability to choose what you're interested in at certain times shouldn't be a wall there. And this just creates power structures that are like, we already have them inherently, and then putting like an actual power structure within our governance layer. I don't know. I'm very against that, but maybe you could share with me this presentation and I can learn more about it, about what the point you're bringing to.
Yeah, I don't know if it was recorded, but I'll reach out to Oren, and if he has a copy, I'll send it to you.
Can I just add one thing about? I think also that a lot of this is going to come down to orientation, like really helping people to understand why this is so important, and then two, how to do it, because it's a big mystery. Like I think if you're new to this community and new to Web3, like voting, doing conviction voting, and just understanding the whole process is it's overwhelming. So I think this is part of the work that there's not maybe a short-term answer to this, but it's like these are some of the systems that as a community I think we need to put in place. It's like the orientation, but then also the engagement processes for like, how do we, when we have something that's really important, like what are the communication systems that we can very easily kind of like kick in and go like, okay, this is about this really important. We need to now push this button and get a lot of engagement around that. Like I don't know that we have that right now. It seems like a lot of more manual effort. Like poor Edu is out there like having to like do outreach to each hatcher and things like that. And so I think this is something that we could probably systematically solve over time, but it may just take a little bit of work and some time.
I just want to also say that about small decisions. That's probably like, I guess that's why we have working groups, right? So I guess it's more a definition of what's a small decision, and if we have small decisions that aren't being being taken care of by a working group, that's probably because we need a working group for that, something like that. So I think like the issue, because like I think the solution is already there. We have one multi-sig for each working group, and each working group takes the decisions pertaining the working group. But if the decision is involving more people, you have to raise a formal proposal to the whole community. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense then, because then like the working groups, they have the power to spend funds, whatever funds they've been allocated. They don't need to submit a proposal to use those funds. Is that right, Enti?
What I understand is, they have to somehow adhere to what they promised they would do in the proposal, but there's some flexibility in there, I guess.
Yeah, that has already been happening with some working groups that received funding, and we developed the structure of a 3-step advice process exactly for that too, that like how to get the least proposals up for vote. And I think that happens quite well. Like we don't have so many votes. It's just when something is really impactful for the community. And maybe we need to reiterate the advice process, like the working group advice process and the individual advice process, and have people more comfortable with that. And just so we just have a minute left, I just wanted to touch on the culture work streams. I know we don't have enough time, but I wanted to share that I started this conversation on race and gender on Twitter, and it felt like people resonated with it. So there's a crew wanting to have a meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. Europe time. If anyone is interested to join, please message me and I'll include you in the invite. And I know, Bonjour, you had something that you wanted to share too on the topic you were looking at.
Oh, no, I was just thinking about drafting a proposal as you suggested. And so when I find the time, I'll do that, and then I'll send it to probably you and some others for review.
Cool. Yeah, feel free to share in the working group. That's the classic case for a working group advice process of something we've been discussing collectively here and then sharing with the group to provide feedback. We're in the top of the hour. Thank you so much, everyone. I know there's some things that we didn't have so much time to discuss, but I think it was a great call, and we have some action items from here that we can continue working async.